I never imagined a single sentence could freeze my entire world. But that's exactly what happened when my wife, Marina, stood in our kitchen one quiet Thursday morning, her hands trembling slightly as she held her phone against her chest. We'd barely spoken all week, barely looked at each other beyond polite nods, and yet she suddenly whispered, "Elliot, you're going to be a father again." For a moment I thought I misheard her. My mind replayed the words over and over, each echo heavier than the last. And then the truth hit me all at once, because we hadn't been intimate in months. Not by accident, not by timing, not by exhaustion. It was a gap built on silence, resentment, and whatever had slowly grown between us without us noticing. So I looked her straight in the eyes and said the only thing my heart could form. "Strange. I haven't touched you in months." Her face went pale. Not surprised, pale. Like she had rehearsed something but forgot the ending. The air between us thickened into something unfamiliar, something sharp. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it, her fingers tightening around her phone as if it were the only solid thing left in the room. Before she could say another word, I stepped back, trying to stay calm, trying to understand whether this moment was real or part of some nightmare I'd eventually wake up from. If this story already has your heart racing, please like this video so it reaches more people who enjoy intense, emotional stories like this. I sat down at the edge of the dining table, watching her pace, her slippers dragging across the floor. Marina had always been gentle, soft-spoken, someone whose eyes told you everything she felt. But now her eyes told me nothing at all. They were guarded, closed off, like she was hiding behind a wall I never even noticed she built. Finally, she muttered, "Elliot, it's complicated." Complicated. That word stabbed more than her announcement. I leaned back, searching for some sign, any sign, that this was a misunderstanding. Something logical, something explainable. But all I saw was fear. Not guilt, fear. And that terrified me more than anything. We'd been married 8 years. We'd shared grief, joy, long nights, short tempers, the birth of our daughter, Avery, and the slow, subtle unraveling of the intimacy we once had. But never did I imagine betrayal lived somewhere inside that unraveling. I swallowed hard. "Is it mine?" I finally asked. Her knees buckled slightly, and she sat across from me, unable to meet my gaze. Her fingers tapped the table, one of her old nervous habits. Except this time it wasn't endearing. It was incriminating. "You're scaring me," she whispered. "I'm scaring you?" I said, my voice cracking from equal parts disbelief and restraint. "Marina, just tell me the truth." She looked up, her eyes glossy, her mouth trembling. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." The room spun. The walls felt too close. I pressed my palms against the table, grounding myself before the anger, heartbreak, and confusion inside me exploded into something uncontrollable. What would you ask first in this situation? Comment your first reaction. Your perspective might help someone going through something similar. Her confession didn't come immediately. It dragged through silence, hesitation, and a suffocating mix of shame and fear. I didn't push her. I wanted to, but I knew that forcing anything right now would only shatter what was left of my ability to hear the truth. When she finally spoke, her voice was small, almost fading. "I made mistakes, Elliot, mistakes I never thought I'd make." The kind of sentence that breaks a man twice, once when he hears it and again when he understands it. Mistakes, plural. Months of emotional distance, weeks of tension, nights she didn't come to bed, mornings she avoided my eyes. Suddenly, everything made a devastating kind of sense. But I needed clarity, real clarity. Not hints, not half-truths, not vague apologies. Type the word truth in the comments if you believe no relationship can survive without it. I found myself thinking, if you believe honesty is the foundation of every relationship, type truth in the comments. Marina wiped her face, as if trying to compose herself, trying to pick the right version of the story to hand me. I didn't want the polished version. I wanted the raw, ugly, bleeding truth she was afraid to admit. I leaned forward. Just say it. Her lip quivered. I don't know whose baby it is. The words exploded between us like a bomb. The kind of sentence that doesn't just hurt. It rewires the entire history of your marriage. I felt something inside me crumble. Not loudly, quietly, the kind of breaking you only hear inside your own chest. Before I responded, before I allowed anger or grief to swallow me whole, I stepped away from the table and walked toward the window, staring at the street outside as though the world out there made more sense than the one collapsing inside my home. If you know someone who needs to hear a story about truth, consequences, and emotional strength, share this video thoughtfully. Stories like these sometimes reach the people who need them the most. My hands were cold, my thoughts scattered, my heart beat loud enough to drown out everything else. I didn't turn around when I asked, "How long?" Her silence was the answer. I finally turned, and the sight of her, small, broken, terrified, did nothing to soften the fracture inside me. Because innocence doesn't tremble like that. Only guilt does. And I realized this moment was just the beginning. She finally whispered, "It wasn't supposed to go this far, Elliot." Her voice cracked like she was confessing to a crime she didn't fully understand. I stood there staring at her, every memory replaying in my mind. Every smile, every argument, every night she turned over and pretended to fall asleep before I even got into bed. Suddenly, all those small shifts made perfect, devastating sense. I sat down again, this time farther away, giving myself space to breathe. "Just tell me everything," I said, more exhausted than angry. She nodded. Though her hands trembled so badly it looked like her own body was rejecting the truth she was about to speak. "It started when I felt lonely. You were working late. Avery was growing so fast. And I didn't feel like myself anymore. I didn't feel like a woman you'd look at the same way." Hearing her say that twisted something in me. Not sympathy. More like confusion mixed with disbelief. "So you found someone else to make you feel better?" Her tears fell harder. "I didn't look for it. It just happened. We were talking. And then talking became comfort. And comfort became..." I closed my eyes. I didn't need the rest of that sentence. My imagination had already filled in every painful detail. If you've ever struggled to understand someone's choices in a relationship, comment your thoughts. This part of the story usually sparks deep discussion. She wiped her lips with the back of her hand, as if ashamed of the words that nearly slipped out. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean to lose us." "But you did," I replied quietly. "And now there's a child involved. A child you're not even sure belongs to me." She swallowed hard, her shoulders folding inward. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. Sorry. The smallest word with the weakest impact. Especially when the damage is measured in broken trust, broken commitment, and the possibility of raising someone else's child under my roof without knowing. I stood up. My legs felt heavy, each step toward the hallway like wading through thick mud. Behind me, she sobbed softly, the sound echoing off the walls we once filled with laughter. I paused at the doorframe. "When did you find out you were pregnant?" "Last week," she said. "I wanted to talk to you, but I was scared." "Scared of what?" I asked, turning slightly. "That you'd leave, that you'd hate me, that I'd destroy our family." Her fears were valid, but they didn't excuse the choices that led us here. I rubbed my forehead. "Marina, who is he?" Her expression shifted, guilt layered with something like humiliation. "His name is Jonah." A simple, ordinary name, yet one that hit me harder than I expected. It made everything real, concrete. No longer a vague betrayal, but a betrayal with a face, a name, a presence. I nodded slowly, processing. "Does he know?" Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I understood before she admitted it. So he didn't know either. Perfect. 2 homes, 2 lives, 2 families blindsided by a single mistake. My heart ached. Not just for me, but for the mess that would inevitably spill into Avery's life. "You realize we need a paternity test, right?" I said, my voice steady though my chest burned. She nodded, wiping tears. "I know. I'll do whatever you want." Her willingness wasn't comforting. Felt like surrender, not repair. I walked into the living room, pacing between the couch and the mantel where our family photos stood, moments frozen in time, untouched by betrayal. I picked up a picture of us holding Avery when she was 2. Marina's smile was warm, real, full. I wondered when that woman disappeared. Before the final moment of the story unfolds. Like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe if you want more stories that explore the raw, real emotions behind relationships. These stories help us understand ourselves and each other better. I returned to the kitchen. Her eyes followed me like she was waiting for a verdict. "We'll get the test," I said, "and depending on the result, we'll decide where we go from there." She nodded again, but her gaze flickered with the kind of fear people have when they already know the truth but hope they're wrong. Days passed in silence. Tense mornings. Heavy evenings. Avery sensed something was off, but she didn't know what. I refused to let our tension spill onto her. When the test day finally arrived, Marina held my hand. Not out of love, but desperation. I didn't pull away, but I didn't hold back either. And then, 3 days later, the results came in. I stood in our bedroom holding the envelope, my heart pounding so violently I thought it might burst. Marina sat on the edge of the bed, gripping the blanket like she needed something to anchor her. I tore the envelope open, read the single page, and everything inside me shifted. Not shattered, not combusted, shifted, like the truth rearranged the shape of the life I thought I had. I looked at her. She looked at me. Time felt painfully slow. "It's not mine," I said quietly. Her face collapsed into her hands as I placed the paper on the bed between us. A line drawn, a truth undeniable, a final break in a story that had already been bleeding for months. And in that moment, I realized something important. Sometimes the truth doesn't just set you free. It frees you from what you were never meant to carry.